All right, everyone, welcome to part two. So as I mentioned at the end of the last video, we're going to focus on academic search complete now. So I went back to the databases A through Z, and I'm just at the A section because we need to find academic search complete. It's the second one, so let's go ahead and click this. So when you click on that, it should take you here. Now here it says searching academic search complete. But the main thing, it says EBSCO host. So to reiterate, Academic Search Complete is a specific database, and EBSCO host is kind of like, well, as the name suggests, a hosting database. So it's kind of like a database for databases. And a lot of times what you can do, you can search many databases at a time to cast a wider net to help you with your research. But Academic Search Complete, for our purposes, is a very good database. So we don't necessarily need to cast a wider net than that, but just a little bit of context for that. So here I am at the main page for this. I'm going to click on Advanced Search. Now what advanced search did is it allows me to toggle my parameters a little bit more, add some specifics, so I can kind of target my research a little bit better. One thing I want to make sure is that I'm finding the full text for these sources. If I don't click that full text button, then it will provide me with maybe only half the text. Like some of the sources might only be half of the text, maybe the first couple of pages. It might only be the abstract, might only be the first page. There's a whole, different number of things that could happen. So I want to make sure that all the sources that I find are full text so I can actually read the entire thing. Something else that I want to specify is the date range, the published date. Generally speaking, you want to try to find sources that are as current as possible, especially if it's something that is, very, very topical, very much of the current time. You want to make sure that your sources are as current as possible for that. But if it's something that maybe has been going on for a few years, generally what you want to do is limit your sources to the last 5 years or so. Now, for my purposes, I'm going to actually limit my sources to the last year or two, 2019 through 2020, okay? Because I have a specific topic that I want to look at, and so let's go ahead and get into that. So the topic I'm really interested in right now is online learning. Online learning, because, well, this is relatively new to me. Online learning. So I want to research this to see what I can find about this. Now, I typed in two words. I need to make sure that I enclose those two words in quotation marks. And the reason for that is I want to make sure that the two words are going to be found together in all the sources. If I don't do that, then it's going to find sources that have the word online, and it'll have the sources with the word learning, but not necessarily online learning together. Okay, so that's really important. I want to make sure that that is stipulated there. So let's see what I can find. Okay, so this search yielded 1,294 different potential sources. That's kind of big. It's kind of a lot. But before I try to narrow this, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and see what sort of sources there are. Okay, you'll notice that in this one, for example, it has HTML full text and PDF full text. One good thing about the PDF full text is it's going to show you the source exactly how it appeared in the original source. Most of the sources in these databases appeared in print form first, and so this will preserve the formatting of the print source as well, whereas the HTML full text will just give you the text, not necessarily the page numbers. If there were any sort of images that accompanied the article, it wouldn't necessarily include those, whereas the PDF full text will. So that's something to look for. Okay, well, I want to try to make this a little bit more specific. So something else I'm going to do is use the second search field, and I want to think of another way of referring to online learning. Another term that we could use is distance learning. That's another way of talking about online learning. So now I'm going to find sources that have online learning and distance learning in there. So that might narrow my focus a little bit. Okay, well, I don't know if I could read that particular source. Okay, well, this yielded 477 different sources, so that's great. That's a little bit more specific. So I can go ahead and scroll down and see if there's something in here that I might find useful. So looking at some of the titles here. Now, the reason I'm researching online learning is, yes, generally I want to talk about online education, online learning, distance learning generally, but I want to look at something that's going to make my focus much narrower, much more specific. I'm going to type in COVID-19. Okay, so now I'm going to find sources that have online learning and COVID-19. So it's going to be very, very recent, very relevant to online learning, the shift to online learning in the pandemic, right? So let's go ahead and see what we can find. Okay, so 316 sources, that's a little bit narrower. So you do the same thing. You would scroll down, look for, read the titles, see if they seem like they're relevant. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this one to show you some features. So when you click on the title itself, it brings you to a sort of title page that gives you some of the specifics of the article. But to read the article, you may need to click on PDF full text. But before I do that, I want to point out some of the tools over here. So you can also send this to your Google Drive. You can create a folder to collect different articles in as you research. That can be very helpful. You can also print. You could email the article to yourself. Again, I recommend that you do that if it's one that you think you might want to use so that you don't need to worry about trying to find it again. You just go to your email and there it is. You could save it to your computer or a thumb drive. And then there's a citation tool. So again, you can look to find the, oh shoot, it should be that there should be the MLA here as well. Yeah, there we go. Export, permalink, so all kinds of different features to help you save the article. So definitely keep track of these things. Don't just trust your memory. I've done that before and it's usually you can't find the article. So you always want to make sure that you save it in some manner. So I'm going to click here PDF full text just to show you what it looks like. So this is how the article looks in its original source, the Delta Kappa Gamma Bulletin. So that's the title of the journal that it's originally published in. You'll notice that it has page numbers. So this is exactly what it would look like if it were in the journal itself. So that's very helpful. So I prefer to find the PDF full text for that reason versus just ones that are the HTML. So you'll some things that you can keep in mind. This is what we call a Boolean search. So you can adjust these. So say, for example, going back, maybe I don't want distance learning. I don't want to find that. So I would say not. So online learning, not distance learning. And so that's going to exclude certain things. So that can be very helpful for you. So what you'll need to do is play around with it a little bit. And look for those different search terms, different ways of describing a concept or something that you're trying to research because it might be known as a different name or a different concept. One thing to pay attention to. So for example, I'm here on the title page for that particular article we were just looking at, and subject terms. I could look for these and see if there are different subject terms that I might be able to use in my search to help me narrow my focus a little bit. So it can be a little bit of trial and error. And again, one thing I recommend that you do is not starting with the EBSCOhost search. Go to Gale opposing viewpoints so that you can get some ideas and see, okay, from there, once you read through some articles, you can gather a little bit of more terminology that you can use for the search terms to help you. All right, everyone. Well, that's all I have to say about those databases. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them or talk with you about your research. Otherwise, have fun.